My name is Mike Hall. I'm an independent researcher in Texas. And I want to kind of give you a background on how I got started in this. Actually, when I was about 10 years old, I lived on an 180-acre farm with my grandparents. And I had a sleepover with some of my buddies one night. There was about 4 guys and me, it was 5 of us. And of course we lived in the country. We didn't have cable television, we didn't have satellite, we had a big antenna. And if we were lucky, on a clear night we could get some Dallas stations or Tyler. But we begged to stay up late, as children do. And we were looking for something cool to watch on television if we could get it in. So I grabbed the TV guide and I saw on the TV guide there was a movie coming on at midnight. And all it said was, "Small southern town terrorized by a monster." That sounded cool. Another thing that you're going to figure out about me is that I'm not really a public speaker. And I think the other thing that you're going to find out pretty quickly is I know nothing about PowerPoint presentations. So I'm going to forge ahead and do the best I can. My grandparents decided, okay, you guys can stay up as long as we didn't raid the refrigerator too often. And we didn't raise too much noise. So we got our popcorn, and we got our sleeping bags, and we got into the den, and the movie came on. I want to see a show of hands. How many of you got interested in this when you saw The Legend of Boggy Creek? Yeah, okay. 30 seconds into this movie, we were scared out of our wits. The funny part is, we were awoke the next morning to the sound of rolling laughter as my grandparents walked into the den and found all of the window shades pulled, the curtains closed, a chair under the door, and 5 10-year-olds huddled together in the middle of the floor under our sleeping bags with all the lights on. But I was hooked. Now, of course, I live in a small town, and we didn't have a lot of resources to read about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or anything like that. But I was fortunate that there were a couple of books in the school library. One was by John Green. And I think I read those 2 books 50 or 60 times while I was in school. Now, of course, as I got to be a teenager, girls and football and things like that kind of took precedent over Bigfoot. But he was always present. He was always in the back of my mind. Now, when I got out of high school, I joined the military. Of course, Desert Storm and things like that. I really didn't have a lot of time to think about those things. But when I came out, I used the GI Bill to go to college. It was the first time I bought a computer and could get online. And I started looking up things about Bigfoot. And in particular, Bigfoot in Texas. And started seeing that there were a lot of reports from the East Texas area, the Louisiana area close to me, and southern Arkansas, southeast Oklahoma. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. This is still ongoing. And I had to make a decision. Was I going to sit on the sidelines, or was I going to jump into the game? So I decided, this is going to be really something that I think I'm going to enjoy. So I jumped into the game. And I got the opportunity to go in the field with some excellent researchers and learn a lot. And a lot of things started happening very quickly. Bruce Dinsford, who was with me on the first actual research outing I ever did in Wood County, Texas, on the Sabine River bottoms. And I'll never forget the date. It was July 14th It was 106 in the shade with about 98% humidity. And it didn't get any better because it was 98 degrees with about 90% humidity at 10 o'clock that night. And we were in the river bottoms, and I was very ill prepared. And I come out of there looking like I had leprosy. I had bug bites from head to toe. But we did have a vocalization. And it was something that sent chills down my spine. And I thought, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. So I continued to read and study and do things and go into the field. And the highlight of my research happened January of 2005. Now, some of you may recognize me from the Weird Travels episode on the Travel Channel. And they took a little bit of liberty and license with how they portrayed what happened. But what happened was we were there for Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Thursday night it had rained a little bit, it was cold. But Friday night we got in the field and we were call blasting from an area that we had been in before where we had vocalizations. There had been sightings in the area, including one from a deputy sheriff. And so we were there and we had vocalizations that were coming from the southwest of our position. So we decided on Saturday night we're going to move to that location. We got over there. The next night on Saturday night it was dead. We had nothing. Well, I take that back. We had a fox that kept circling around and yipping, but other than that, it was just completely dead. By 2:30 in the morning, we were pretty much human popsicles and decided, well, we're done, and it's time to pack up and head back. And some of the guys were going to do some road running, and there happened to be a female newspaper reporter with me, or with the group, that she was a city girl and she had never been camping in her life, and this was a new experience for her, and she was having a miserable time from day one anyway. And she was a complete skeptic. And nothing thus far that weekend had proved anything to her. When we got to the Jeep, she said, I'm done, I want to go back to the camp, I want to get into my sleeping bag and get warm and sleep. So I volunteered, I said, okay, I'll take you back. Now we were about 5 miles deep into a national forest on a Forest Service road at 2:30 in the morning, and I'm driving very slowly. It's very hilly, but it's a white shirt rock type road. And I thought, honestly, when she sat down in the passenger seat that she went to sleep because she got so quiet. And I'm just scanning the tree line, and all of a sudden I hear her say, what's that? And I said, what's what? And she points through the front windshield, she goes, that. And before I could say anything, she says, well, whatever it is, don't run over it because I don't want to be in an accident in the middle of nowhere with an animal. Then I got to looking at it a little closer, and I said, holy, you know what? And she said the same thing. And what we were looking at was about a 6 foot tall, hair-covered, dark hair-covered, bipedal, moving animal. Had his back to us, traveling in the same direction we were, down the middle of the road. And as we started to get closer, it simply moved to the side of the road as if to say, come on by. But then changed his mind as we did get closer, and he took about a 45-degree turn. Now this road was sunken, and you had about a 4-foot embankment on either side to get into the forest bed. It turned and took one step. Boom. And he was gone. Total of about 8 seconds. I come to a stop near where he had gone in. I jump out with my flashlight and looking, thinking tracks. There's going to be tracks everywhere. But this road was so compact hard, it was like this floor. So I was very deflated. But I heard something moving to the right of the Jeep. And I turned, and the foliage was still pretty thick. And I couldn't really see, but I could hear it moving from about my 10 o'clock position. And as it moved across, I kept going, and as I got here, there were 2 large trees and a game trail. And I pointed my light right down that trail, and he stepped right across the trail and behind a giant oak. I mean, I couldn't wrap my arms around this thing. And it stood there. I finally coaxed her out of the car because she wasn't coming out. But she did finally get out, and I said, if you see anything move, tell me, because I want another witness on this. And I turned my head just slightly. I hear her take one of these sounds, and I look just in time to see an arm go back behind the tree. Now, we stood there for what seemed like forever. It was probably only a few minutes, but it seemed like forever, and we heard nothing. The next day, I was able to take the other group out back to this location where the pine straw, there was no discernible prints, but you could see where something large had powered its way to the top of this forest floor, and we tracked it for about 150 yards down in there. We found broken branches and tree limbs and different things. None of it was solid proof that it was Bigfoot, but it was something large had moved through this area. And it coincided with what we had seen the night before. So the whole thing, from that point, I thought I was hooked as a child, but now that I knew for a fact that they were out there, now I have to know what they are. How do they live? How do they survive? What are they? What are they? I've been on many research outings in East Texas, mostly East Texas. And I have to say it's very, very wooded, lots of water, swamps, bottomland. But what I want to talk about today is what we're doing. We're searching for the truth. And the backdrop here is pretty apropos. With the evidence we have now, if you consider a jigsaw puzzle, I think what we have now is the outer edges of a jigsaw puzzle. Now we have to fill in the middle part to get the big picture. And I think we're on the right track. You can go ahead and... This is I stole this idea from Autumn Williams. But it fits very well. If we knew what we were doing, it wouldn't be called research, would it? Albert Einstein. I think he's a pretty intelligent guy. Theory of relativity and all that. Okay, go to the next one. Now, is this really how the rest of the world sees us? After the Georgia hoaxing incident, I think this is pretty much average Joe out there probably looks at us like this a little bit. Okay, go to the next. Just some funny stuff to kind of break the ice. Little bitty feet. Okay. Now, in regards to photography, and I talked to Dr. Meldrum about blob squatches. How do you think the squatches feel when they come home from vacation and all their pictures are fuzzy and out of focus? Okay. This is the Natchez River in East Texas, and I think it's a very unique situation because we have the Trinity River running south, and parallel to that, only about 30 miles away, you have the Natchez River, and only about 30 miles further east of that, you have the Angelina River, and then you have the Sabine River north that runs down and cuts down into the border between Louisiana and Texas, and it's a convergence with the Sulphur River and the Red River. They all kind of go that direction. So we have a lot of rivers in very close proximity to each other, which would afford these animals in some of the rural areas to move from waterway to waterway. There's plenty of vegetation, plenty of wildlife, plenty of food for them to survive on. Now, you can go to the next one. This is when the river was up. And you can see, here's the tree line here, and here's the bank here. It's pretty full. And this is at this point where we're at is a fairly deep river. You hear that still waters run deep. That's not just a saying about a person's personality. The top of the water runs very quietly, very slowly, indicating that it is a deep river. Okay, next. You can see this is after a little bit of rain. Water was up. The area that we've been researching in, if you have any appreciable amount of rainfall, it is a very low floodplain, and it floods, and you have sloughs and swamp area that is very hard to get through, and that will come into play here just shortly. Okay, next one. This is one of the, am I correct, Bruce? Is this one of the roads into the area? This is closer to the main road, so you can see that the private landowner that let us go on this property has a deer hunting club, and he has, I don't know how many thousands of acres, but he can only fence off about half of that behind game fence, because any closer to the river and it's useless because of the floodplain. Okay, next. As you get a little further in, you can see the trails start to narrow, and they're not as clean. Now, he does go in and try to keep the general paths free of logs and deadfall and things of that nature. And about once a year, he does go in with a brush hog and kind of the ones he can reach. This is actually going up the hill location. I do believe, and you can't really see it, but right in there is a homemade deer stand. And about halfway up this hill is where we placed a recorder one night. And that will come into discussion here in a moment. Okay, you go to the next one. This is just a picture of, it's kind of fuzzy, and I understand, and just a bad quality picture, but just kind of the general lay of the land there. Okay, next. This is just an open meadow close to where we go, or in the area where we go. And you can see the tree line there, and you've got a couple of little trees here, a little one there. Okay. This is where we've been most recently. This was kind of at dusk, so you can see. This was actually after Hurricane Ike. Was this after or was it before? It was just after. Just after. And the water level was up pretty high. Okay, next. That's just a beautiful shot. I thought it was pretty, so I added it in. I had one of me and Dr. Meldrum several years ago, but I didn't want to seem like I was stroking egos or anything. So go ahead, next. This is what you would picture an area where you might see a Bigfoot. This is more of a Northern California look. But the areas I've been showing you still have a lot of these qualities. You have a lot of ground cover, a lot of foliage, a lot of trees, probably a lot of wildlife and water and such. Okay, next. Now we're going to talk about pieces of the puzzle. Remember I was talking about the jigsaw puzzle? We have the outer edges. Just go to the next one there. Of course, there's cast of tracks. Dr. Meldrum has some great examples on the table back there. Okay. There's a few more different ones from different areas. Okay. Now this was just a few months ago along the Neches River in the area where we have been researching. Bruce Dinsford and I had decided we were going to do a little experiment. We were going to take our recorders and our cameras, we were going to go down, we were going to put them out, and we were going to completely leave the area. We weren't going to camp out, we weren't going to stay. Just for an overnight deal, just leave the cameras and the recorders out there and complete, just by themselves. As we got out of the vehicle, which took us a while to get to this location, I said, Bruce, I'm going to walk down to the riverbank and just kind of take a look-see. And as you can see, if I'm not in anybody else's way here, I'll step back. You can see Bruce here. There was a trackway. And I have a cast of it that Dr. Meldrum is going to take with him to study. But the tracks, the forest to the south, is where these tracks came from. Now, they're not overly large tracks. They're only about 10 inches long, but they are 5-toed, barefooted tracks. Now, if you've ever been in an area like this, if you go barefooted anywhere, it'd be kind of just ridiculous. Because it is absolutely the most snaky, animal-infested, and I wear camouflage dungaree type clothes and still come out looking like I wore shorts because the thorns are the size of 16-penny nails. They're just huge. And somebody to walk barefooted through this area would be just absolutely ludicrous. Besides the fact that you have to go through 2 locked game fence gates to get here. And no one goes in this area, especially not someone barefooted. The tracks are about the size of my 12-year-old son's feet. And I don't know about you, but I'm not going to let my kids run around out there barefooted. Does it prove anything? No, but it's a piece of the puzzle. Okay, next. Here is a close-up of the track. Here's the toe, big toe here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Very pronounced shape. That was one of the clearer tracks. And we did catch these. Okay, next. This, we actually have the limb. I do believe it's back in the back here if you want to look at it. This was from Oklahoma. And it was I want to make sure this is right. It's a red cedar. Okay. A red cedar about 8 foot tall. That was not 50 yards from where we were camped. We started examining this tree and found that one whole side of this tree from top to bottom was completely destroyed. Limbs were twisted and just ripped to pieces. But as we got closer, you can see, I know this is a bad picture and you can get a better look at some of these examples. These are hair. And they were stuck in the cracks of the trees and in these briars that don't have, the briars themselves have nothing to do with the red cedar. But they were all over this tree, they were all over the ground. They were from 8 foot down to the ground. We collected thousands of these hairs. We've had them analyzed by an independent laboratory. A young lady that works there did it at her own time, so she couldn't give us an official statement because she was doing it on the company take, so to speak, and she would have lost her job. But what she came back was that it didn't, the hairs, some having follicles, did not match anything in their database. We sent them to Henry Fehrenbach. His analysis was bare. But the location where this was west of Oklahoma City. And I don't know about you, but as populated as this area was, with just little sporadic areas of forest, the Native Americans that lived on this actual Indian land said they'd never seen bear there. So we sent it to what was his name? Dr. Lynn Rogers, who is a bear expert. And his assessment, or his assistant's assessment, was this isn't bear at all. Now, we're going to further study this. So you can go to the next slide. This is a photograph that I showed Dr. Meldrum, and I agree, it's a blob squatch. It's a blob squatch, and I don't know if blowing it up this large you can really tell, but right in here, if you can see a face right there, what looks like a face. The story, this happened, this picture was taken about 8 miles from where we do research currently. The lady was going, it's a dirt road, she was going to town on this dirt road, and it had a 90-degree turn, and in that turn was a little pond, a little really scummy covered pond, and she looked over and she saw this creature from about the waist up wading around in the water. She rushes back home, gets her camera, comes back, and it's gone. So she just starts taking snapshots of the area. She finds this tree that looks like it's been just ripped to pieces, and she thinks that's pretty interesting, so she's going to get out and take a photograph of that. And as she's standing there, her little camera has the red eye reduction on it, and as everybody knows, some of those things beep. And when it started beeping, this thing screamed at her. And the picture took, and she jumps in the car and she leaves. A few days later, when she had the film developed and she's looking through the pictures, she sees this. Now, of course, that doesn't prove anything either. As Dr. Meldrum pointed out, this area here is the same color as some of this over here, and this, I mean, it could be anything, but the interesting thing is, being in that location 3 days later, we saw nothing in this area that would formulate that shape. And I do have photographs. I couldn't find those photographs, unfortunately. I do have photographs that hold out to that point, that there was nothing here to formulate that shape or color. Again, it doesn't prove anything, but it's a piece of the puzzle. Okay, next. What we work with a lot now, or what we've really tried to focus on, is audio recordings. And what we have here, and I'm not sure, I can't remember which one this is, but if you would go ahead, this is Hope. This was actually September 1 year ago, and it was the very first night we were on the Neches River. So if you would go ahead and just see if that will work. Is it going to play? Okay. It's not going to. Okay. Yeah. A little technical problem with the audio file there. I don't know about you, but I always carry an extra zip drive in my pocket. Well, it's better than carrying a mouse, isn't it, right? After a while, the mouse would start to smell kind of bad, so I carry a zip drive. Okay. Okay, well, we'll move on then. What this was a recording of was a tree knock. Bob Dinsford, another researcher, Mark Mosley, and the documentary filmmaker Todd Partain were sitting at this river camp. We had 9 people with us that night, and we had split into three-man teams. Myself, Bruce Dinsford and Rob Dinsford were north up this trail, and Lonnie Robles and Scott Kessler and Buddy Wiley, another gentleman, were further north up the trail, just kind of spreading ourselves out into a kind of a picket line. And it had been fairly quiet, nothing significant had happened, when all of a sudden we hear on the radio Bob, in a very trite voice, "Guys, you gotta get back here. You gotta get back here now." So we grab our stuff and we're heading back. We don't know what's happened, we don't know what's going on. But the recording was something that actually about 30 yards from them to the south, and using this particular tool here, recorded what sounded like someone taking a Louisville slugger and just pounding the hell out of a tree. Very loud. And are we gonna?
Hang on.
Well, the recordings are, you know.
Yeah, we found it. Give me just a second.
Okay. I have a recording of that incident that was on that particular. There's some of that equipment. Let's go back. I do apologize. I told you I didn't know very much about PowerPoint presentations, so you can't say I didn't warn you.
Okay, here's the vocalization.
Okay. You double click it? Is that? Okay. Phil, let's move
Put it
on.
on Windows and then you might just have to pull it on Windows.
If you go to the recordings file and see which one is it.
First one?
Is that it? No. Right here.
929.
Is that one? Yeah, right there. Did everybody hear that? It's near the end there, but that would, to me, sounds like wood on wood. Something that, I don't know about anybody else, but that sounded like somebody had taken a baseball bat or a limb or something and just whacking a tree. Okay, next. Some of the tools that we use are these little Olympus digital voice recorders. Now, I'm going to quote me if I'm wrong, Bruce. If you put these on high quality, they will run for 18 hours?
Yeah.
Roughly 18 hours. And the way we deploy these, you can go to the next slide, is this. And you can see this is an actual, you can see how small and compact it is. And it just simply fits inside. Let's see if I can open this up here. We've got it protected with some little foam rubber. And external mic unplugs. There's a hole at the bottom. Start it, put it in, plug the mic in. Seal it shut. And then take this and you clip it to a tree limb and just walk away. Whatever happens in the night near this, you're going to pick it up. These are pretty inexpensive. You can get the recorders on eBay for about $50. You can get the box for about $5. External microphone, about $15 or so. So for less than $100, you've got a very nice little research tool that you can use repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again. And it does take a AAA battery, and you can use a battery up in about one night, so you have to invest in batteries, but other than that. Okay, next. There's the full-size closed version. You can go now. You can go in stereo. You can have a right and left channel. And we've been using this technique to determine if something walks up close, which direction did it walk from? Did it come from this direction or this direction? Did it come from behind it, or where did it come from? What direction was it traveling? Next. There's one, I don't know if you can see it, hanging in a tree. We had deployed. Simply, the strap is stripped to there, and here's the box, the little microphone below it. Okay, next. Here's another setup that we've used, and this is even more. You had a glass Tupperware bowl with a lid here. You hole cut in the end here, hole cut in the end here. Here's your recorder. And now this is I'm going to correct it, that's a piece of a dowel rod that's been modified. It has a positive and a negative lead tacked to the end of it. And it's run to a D-size battery instead of having a single AAA there. So it'll run a little bit longer as far as power is concerned. Simply slide this into the box, plug it in, wedge it into the fork of a tree, spread your microphones out, and you're recording. Okay, next. There's the closed up version, what it looks like. All right. Now you can bungee those as well. This is you can see the microphone sticking up here. This is on a tripod. Now that is a Sony mini disc, is that correct? Sony mini disc recorder with a external mic sitting on a tripod. We've employed that several times. Okay, next. And here's what you see here live. This is a photograph of that. Okay. Go to the next one. Another shot of it there. You can, yeah, there we go. Runs off of is this a 12 volt marine battery. And what this little tool does, and I'm going to walk over here real quick. I hope I don't, if everybody can see this. This is actually the disc itself is homemade. And inside of this, you have your two stereo mics, or you have two mics that record in stereo. On the inside. These are run through and powered by this battery, as well as, I'm going to turn this around here so you can see a little better. Okay. You've got actually a spotlight with an IR lens on this side, and a regular spotlight on this side. And you have your Sony high digital video recorder with night shot on it, and the dish runs the sound directly into the camera itself as it's recording, and then you have headphones that you can plug into this and sit and listen. And as you can see, you can very quietly point this in any direction, and believe me, you can hear things from miles away. And the really cool stuff is when you have a pretty good sized June bug or something flying in front of it. And it sounds like a B-17. That'll scare you sometimes. But this is a really neat setup because it's basically a camera tripod that it sits on. This is PVC pipe screwed together, as you can see, to form the frame. You have your base up here, and these are bolted to the base. And then it's got a couple of hand grips here, So if you want to go mobile, you can just take it out of the tripod and you can walk and you can point it in any direction and carry it wherever you want to go when you're in the field. Okay, next slide, please. There I am, looking all dashing and dapper, pointing that dish at something. Okay, next. Get off that one, it's out there. This is Bob Densford employing a game camera down on the Natchez River area. Because we still would like to have photographs as well. Because if you can have photographs of something that you have a voice recording of, then you've got 2 pieces of evidence. And if you can get a track too, then you've got 3 pieces of evidence from the same creature or animal. Okay, next. This is Scott Kessler from Louisiana. We were setting up a ground blind, basic small tripod here with a Sony night shot video camera and a small handheld parabolic dish there. This particular night we encountered some pretty interesting smells that kicked our gag reflexes in pretty hard. Scott assumed it was one of us, which I didn't find funny at all. But about 30 yards across from us, go to the next slide. I think that's the next slide. No, never mind. Again, it's the Natchez River, but about 30 yards across from us, we were hearing movement and everything, and all of a sudden it sounded like something grabbed a tree limb and just ripped it off the tree. It sounded like a shotgun blast. Have you ever heard of somebody pop a 2x4 or heard a 2x4 pop? That's what it sounded like. Okay, next. Go again. Again, this is kind of the area where we're at. This is a little open meadow. This tree line, of course, goes all the way around us. It's just a little open circle in the middle of nowhere. Next. Again, here's the Natchez River. It's a little clearer shot. You can see the bank. I'm going to move out of the way over here. You can see the bank here curving around up under this grove here. You can see the bank going this way. This is the area where we have had such success. Okay, next. Again, this is a flooded visual of the flooded area as the trees. You can see these trees are underwater. And if you go there when it's dry, you can actually, several hundred yards from the actual river itself, you can see the dark outline along the tree trunks as to the water line at some point. Okay, next. Remember that forest I told you about seeing Bigfoot in? There he is. Okay, go ahead, next. Now, here's a map of the general area. And I'm going to try to step out of the way and kind of hide myself over here so you can see this better. This white line here indicates the game fence location. This is where we had camped. You can see the partial of the dirt road that came in right here. And again, it comes out into an opening. And here's the second gate. The first gate would actually be way over here. And the road twists and turns and comes back and comes out and it winds up here. This is a swampy slough area here. And again, over on this side, it's pretty swampy. And then this trail, as you can see, it kind of meanders back into here and comes back around and comes back around. And this area here is where we found those tracks, the trackway that I showed you earlier. It was along this bend here where we found that. And the tracks moved from inside the forest here, down along the bend, and then kept going north up the river. This whole area, it's kind of hard to see, but it's veined with little trails and ways to get to and from areas pretty easy. There's a lot of little sloughs and just really swampy area. And The particular recordings I'm fixing to show you, let you hear, are from the one night's event, starting at about 10 o'clock at night, going till 3:30 the next morning from different locations. And I've indicated these locations here, 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 and here. If you would try to play that one right there and see if it works. Is that one not going to work either? Okay, let's see. That is right here. The Ohio response. And I do apologize. I had these embedded in there and they were working fine at home. Again, I don't know anything about PowerPoint. Now that's the Ohio howl that we blasted. Can you hear it? There we go again with the second blast. There's the third. Now, then we have coyotes kicking in. Then a little cough there at the end. I don't know what that was. Or a cough sound. Could that have been something else? Sure. But it was interesting. Okay, can we, is there a way to go back to the... Did that sound okay? Did you guys hear that? Do you want to hear it again? Okay. Again, that was us. That was us. Now, of course, again, does that prove anything? No, we didn't see what made the sound, and it could have very well been canid. But it was by itself. It was a lone call, and very interesting. Okay, because you can just click to the next slide. It's going to be the same map. But try this one. Okay. Okay. What we have, that recording that we just heard came from down in this area here, I believe. There's a slough area. No, was it A?
Out there past A somewhere.
Oh, out here, past A. Out in this area. Okay. And let's see if this one these were working. I know these. No, it's right there. Isn't that going to do it either? No. Okay. I do apologize, guys. I'm very sorry. I did save the. Now, which one was this one? This was this one right here. This is one of our drop boxes, baked with peanut butter. What he's doing is sniffing the peanut butter. And right there, he just talked into the microphone, which was about this tall off the ground, above my head. And he hangs around for a few minutes. Bigfoot with a big glass of cold milk. Okay, you can go to the next slide. These are the guys that I work a lot with. Scott Kessler, Lonnie Robles, myself. I'm Scott Kessler. Bob Dinsford, Scott Kessler, Lonnie, Bruce Dinsford, myself. Of course, if you go to the next slide, these are the guys here: Rob, Bob, Bruce, Todd Partain, Van Hall, no relation, just that we know of. I'm not going to claim him anyway if he was. So, Mark Mosley, Scott Kessler, and Lonnie. These are the guys that I work with. These are the things that we recorded. All of these things have happened in the last 6 months, year. The most interesting things in the last 6 months, but over the last year. We're going to continue to use and utilize this location because it has yielded a lot of results. And I hope that some of these guys from Mid-America can maybe come down and take a trip with us out there. Go out there and stay a few nights and see what happens. But as I said, I'm not a public speaker and never claimed to be. This was my first ever presentation. I hope that I did well. If you have any questions, I'll venture to try to answer them. If they're technical about the equipment, I'll refer to the two techies over here. Does anybody have anything? No, we've never had a game camera come up missing, and someone even asked because this is a pretty bright colored orange, if we would consider camoing these, maybe they would hide them a little better. But we've got some green ones and some red ones, and these have not come up missing either. We try pretty hard to put these in areas that are not really noticeable, but we make a mental note, sometimes jot down exactly where we place them, but we've never had anything come up missing. Bruce has got his laptop with him and has an abundance of more recordings of tree knocks. Now, one that I didn't have on here was, we actually about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, we had the tree knock that was really close to our recorder. It was a single knock. Then about 10 seconds later, you hear another knock off in the distance. And I'll tell a funny story real quick. We were actually, when we found those tracks, the trackway along the riverbank, we were getting ready to pour the cast, and we were sitting there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, about 50 yards from us on the opposite bank of the river in a big thicketed area. 3 perfectly crystal clear, loud tree knocks. Whack, whack. And on the third one, it sounded like whatever it was swinging broke. And it was kind of a crunch sound, and we kind of laughed at that. But we've been in this area so much, and we're going to continue to go because it's speculation only. But because of the size of the tracks that we found, but the other activity, we feel that there's more than just one in this area. There's a family or just a group. Don't know if it's a family type thing or situation, but it's just kind of a feeling. It's more than a feeling than we actually know. So I hope that my presentation enlightened you a little bit. I hope that you're interested in some of the equipment that we use, because it can be attainable at a very inexpensive price, so that you too can go out into your areas and record these things. And because just like a photograph or a film, an audio recording can be analyzed just as well as a photograph or a piece of film, and give you some insight into what made the vocalizations or noises that you're hearing. So I'd like to thank you for your attention, and the next guy that's going to come up is going to talk a little bit about some things that I think we've experienced in some vocalizations that are considered maybe a little bit of mimicry of known animals, such as barred owls and maybe even bovine, cow, or even coyote. So I thank you again, and I hope that it was a good presentation, and hope you enjoy it. Before I get done, I do want to say I feel very deeply honored, and I'm very appreciative of Farland Huff and the guys from Mid-America for having me here, and I want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure, and it's been an honor.
Well, just to let everybody know, we had Mike and his wife out there with us last night, and it's always great when we got other researchers going out with us. One thing that really cracked me up was we was talking about the peanut butter and the coffee, and Mike said, you know, if that thing would have been allergic to peanut butter, he would have been responsible for killing it.
I think it would have been sort of like it might have been accepted like those guys in Georgia, because I could just hear myself on television going, well, how did the Bigfoot die? Well, I killed it with peanut butter. I think my credibility would have went out the window right there. So, but thank you again, and I guess we're going to lunch.
Yeah, we're gonna bring the Jack Links over here, and everybody, if you would, just grab one bag, so we try to get everybody a bag of it. And we're going to come back at 1 o'clock, and we're going to have driver operator. And if anybody was here last year and seen the reputation, you know it's going to be a good one.